Your circle will change as you accomplish your goals and level up. Everybody can't go.
And we live. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another Everybody Can't Go Convo. Today I have another special guest for you guys. And when I tell you, like, this dude don't just come past dropping a gem here or there, like your man's got a whole bag of gems and just walking, just trailing them, okay? So y'all are in for a good treat today, for sure. Today I have for you guys Rob YB Youngblood. This is the president and chief connecting officer of YB Connects and the author of Collaboration Creates Currency, which is also a movement, and that's bringing us the blueprint for visibility, credibility, and profitability. Welcome, Rob, and thank you for joining us today.
Peace and blessings, Jess. I'm excited about being here with you and being able to share those gems with you and your guests.
Awesome. So, in addition to the brief introduction that I just gave of you, introduce yourself and then let us know what you currently have going on in your business and what it's all about.
Absolutely. So I'm a proud father of two beautiful daughters who are now high schoolers. Married. My wife and I have been married going on 19 years. I'm a native of the Bronx, New York. Grew up in a single parent home. My father was actually murdered when I was two. I share that not to gain any sympathy, but just to let folks know that I'm a real one. I've had to overcome adversity. And as a result, I was able to create assets that are now making an impact not only on my life, but on the lives of others. I'm a two-time author, award-winning speaker, public relations consultant, and in many circles are known as the LinkedIn locksmith because of the ability to unlock the power of LinkedIn for my clients.
That's dope. And so you just mentioned that you've been dubbed as a LinkedIn locksmith. With that portion of your expertise, how are people missing out on the power of using LinkedIn as a tool so that they can connect with other people?
Yeah. So first of all, the name LinkedIn locksmith wasn't a name that I came up with, right? I'm a smart guy. I went to the greatest HBCU in the nation, Virginia Union University. For those who are listening, I went to any other HBCUs. You can argue with yourself about that, but I went to the greatest HBCU. But I didn't make that name up. I actually got it from a guy by the name of David Shands, who many people know in the podcast world through his work with the Social Proof podcast as well as with Sleepers for Suckers. And I was able to serve him, add value to him and a colleague of his. And he did a talk for ET within the Breathe University community, and he mentioned that everyone needs a locksmith. And a locksmith is someone who unlocks the problems for people who are struggling with adversity. And so there are people who struggle with LinkedIn. But the biggest challenge that people have is they continuously see LinkedIn just as a platform for employment. And so the greatest room for opportunity is for individuals who start to see LinkedIn as a platform for revenue generation and public relations. And I've been teaching individuals since 2012 how to leverage the LinkedIn platform as a public relations tool. And in 2016, began to show them how to use it as a revenue generation tool. And so I think that the greatest thing that people may be missing out on is the opportunity to leverage this platform to, one, grow their professional and personal brand, as well as to leverage the platform to attract clients who are looking for them. And there are people that need you to be their locksmith. But once you start to master LinkedIn, then you can make that a reality for yourself.
All right. So when y'all see me pop up with my LinkedIn refresh and I got it unlocked, y'all will know exactly who helped me to get there so that I can optimize my page. I can honestly say I'm one of those people that until I started to speak with you and heard you talk about this, I view LinkedIn exactly the same way. It's like, okay, well, this is like an online resume. It's the thing that a potential employer would check if they're looking to hire me, or if they're verifying, am I a real person? Or, possibly looking to see, am I even affiliated with people from some of the places that I've been working at? And even in that sense, I'm like, my LinkedIn still isn't even up to date enough for that. I never took the time to go through and click all of those little buttons to connect with coworkers or people that I'd worked with in the past. I more so just used it as a online repository of, hey, here's a list of where I worked. Do I have an interview or no? And
Right.
so once I was able to hear you speak about the different ways that LinkedIn could be leveraged, I'm like, oh, wait, let me get, okay, I got a little bit more to learn, because you opened up a whole new way for me to look at LinkedIn as a tool.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Most people, like I said, they don't know what they don't know. And I didn't know until I began to build relationships with coaches who, showed me the importance of tapping into my gift. And I realized that my gift consists of three aspects: the ability to connect, the ability to promote, and the ability to help people gain clarity. And so that makes me a valuable asset to entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, speakers, coaches who want to begin to increase their influence, impact, and income. And that's exactly what I do for my clients, both on the YB Connect side and my new company, YB Credibility PR, which is the public relations side.
That's what's up. That's dope. So, as you were coming into like knowing what your value was and what you were bringing to the table, take us back a little bit. What was the path that led you to that, before you got to the point of getting coaches that were able to help pull that out of you?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I went to the greatest HBCU in the nation, right? And so I actually came from a single parent home. I transitioned from the Bronx, New York, to go to Virginia Union in 1996. It took me 8 years to finish a 4 year degree, not because I lacked intelligence, but I just was all over the place. I wasn't focused. I was literally the first generation in my immediate family to go to college. And so I was so focused on the personal interaction perspective, right? If I would have gotten another degree, it would have been in social networking, right? It would have been in social networking. That's all I did. I just focused on networking. But when I graduated from college in 2004, I didn't have a full time job lined up. I didn't. Matter of fact, I was reflecting on this just a few days ago. It's been 20 years since I graduated from college. And I went back to the old apartment building that I lived in here in Richmond, Virginia, and I just was reflecting how fast 20 years went by. And so, 20 years ago, I didn't have a full time job lined up. And so what I did was I reconnected with a Alpha brother. I'm a member of the greatest fraternity in the world, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and I had a conversation with this brother and invited him to my home. And he sat down and he showed me a business plan, which was affiliated with the Amway Corporation out of Michigan. And I was blown away because it gave me the opportunity to get started in something that I always wanted to be, which was an entrepreneur. I mentioned how my father was murdered when I was two, but my father was an entrepreneur too. He just sold the wrong products, if you know what I mean. And so as a result, it kind of led to his demise. But when that frat brother showed me that, it expanded my mentality to be able to show me that I didn't have to focus on a 9 to 5. I could own my own business. Eventually, I got a job. I ended up working for the Boy Scouts of America as their Learning for Life executive. And Learning for Life is one of their non-traditional programs that focused on character education and career exploration. And I had a territory of about 24 counties and 4 cities around Central Virginia. And I was going in and out of schools to deliver character lesson plans and developing my talk. And from there, I became a professional speaker. I remember being invited to speak to a group of young people at a church for a young lady who I worked with in one of those public schools. And she invited me on the weekend to come and talk to these young people. And at the end of the talk, she slid me an envelope. Now, I grew up in the Baptist church. And in the Baptist church, if you perform any type of service, they give you a little check, but you better not look at it while you standing there in front of all those people. Because the look on your face will tell you whether or not you got a lot of money or if you got a little bit of money. So I was always taught, go into the corner or go to the bathroom, look at your envelope, and make sure you fix your face before you came out of the bathroom, whether it was positive or negative. And so when I got that envelope from the woman, I didn't look at it right away. It wasn't until I got into the car and I looked at it, and she had given me $250 to talk to these young people. It wasn't solicited. I didn't ask for it. I was actually giving my time away, but she blessed me, and that started my career as a professional speaker. So in addition to me having access to a direct sales business, in addition to me having a full time job working for this nonprofit organization, I've been a professional speaker since 2004, and been impacting lives in a mighty way since then. And so that was before I even had any real coaches to help me to discover what my true gift was. I didn't really discover it until right after those moments.
Okay, okay. So it's something that it's been there, been in you this entire time. And I would say it sounds like you kind of honed in on it and just refined it. So you already knew it was there, you was already operating in that and just, advancing in it.
Yeah, I always knew that I had a gift. I just didn't know how I was going to apply it. I was
Mhm.
talking to a group of fifth graders recently, and I told them when I was in middle school, elementary school, I used to get in trouble for speaking. Now I get paid for speaking. And so it's kind of funny how, you have these situations, but it's not until you discover how to use your gift that your gift begins to make room for you. Oftentimes the gift, if you don't know how to use it, is actually a burden. It becomes a
Mhm.
problem. But then here comes someone who has a similar gift, but they're getting results, and now they start to teach you how you can get results, and that's what happened with me. I began to meet people who had a greater level of confidence when it came to meeting people. I wasn't always that confident when it came to meeting strangers, right? I mean,
Mhm.
if I was in a certain room, it'd be easy to build relationships with people that's in the same program, right? They're not really strangers. We're all here to do the same thing. But ask me to walk up to a person and introduce myself. I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm good. I'm good on that. But what I had a mentor, his name is John Coleman, and John had a lot of boldness. Now he was in a different fraternity and he went to a different HBCU, but he had this boldness about him. And then the more I hung out with him, the more I caught that boldness. And now if anybody's standing in front of me for longer than 3 seconds, I'm sticking my hand out to say hello. How you doing? My name is Rob YB Youngblood, and just introduce myself. You know what I'm saying? It's funny
Mhm.
because I used to say, before I got married, I said, man, that's a talent that could get me in a lot of trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like the ability to just walk up to people and have that gifted gab. Yeah,
Mhm.
that could be. It's like having the dark side, right? You got the force, and then you got the dark side. It's like I could choose to go Anakin Skywalker and turn into Luke, or I could be Luke and turn into Anakin. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm choosing to stay Luke and be positive, especially now, because when you build a 19-year marriage, you ain't looking to start all over. That I'm not interested in all that.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And I love that recognition of that the power of having that you could do something positive with it or you could do something negative with it, but it comes down to the choice that you make on what you're
Mm-hmm.
going to do with that gift, with that talent. And how you're going to use it for to better yourself and to help and better others as well. And so that's really dope.
Yeah.
So in your book, you talked about following up and that you was once told that 90%, 98% of people don't follow up. So I wanted you to expand with us, expand on that follow up and what are the impacts and growth in business when you're talking about that follow up?
Yeah, I remember the conversation I had with the person who told me that, man. It was CJ Quinney, who was the right hand man to Eric Thomas. And I remember having I had this conversation with the Holy Spirit. I'm a very spiritual guy. So I had this conversation with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit said, bring ET to Richmond. This is back in 2016. And I'm like, yo, how I'm going to do that? Like, really? Like, how I'm going to do that? Like, just like I'm talking to you, I'm talking to the Holy Spirit. Like, how I'm going to do that? And so literally one thing led to another, and it led to a guy here in Richmond who said to me that ET was his mentor. And I was blown away. As a matter of fact, I was so blown away that I was about to let out a hallelujah shout in my car when he told me this, because I felt like I was super close to what I was advised to do. And so what ended up happening was the guy had a connection to CJ, and CJ and I had a conversation. And I, you know CJ. I know CJ. Some of you may not know who CJ is, CJ Quinney, but CJ's got this air about him, right? He's very direct. You know, he don't got a lot of time to play games. I didn't know that at the time, but I was doing a lot of talking. And the one thing you don't do with a person that don't have a lot of time on their hands is do a lot of talking. I was doing a lot of talking. And so he just said this. He said, listen, you sound like a really sharp guy, like you got a lot of great things going on. He said, but 98% of people never follow up. Don't be a part of the 98%. He hangs up the phone. Now, Jess, I'm from New York, bro. I'm like, bro, hold up. You're not gonna just hang up the phone on me, man. Like I was ready to fight. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was ready to fight. So I told him, I didn't tell him directly. I told him when he hung the phone on me, I said, I'm gonna show you. And I took a trip from Richmond, Virginia to St. Louis, Missouri to see ET in person. Right? I leveraged some resources that I had. I had people invest in my professional development because I could not allow this guy who I just had on the phone show me up. I was gonna follow up. I wasn't going to be a part of the 98%. And so since 2016, that's what I've been doing. I've been following up. And I've benefited from the follow up because I've been able to attract people who I would have never met had it not been for that follow up, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have met Marshall Fox if I didn't follow up, right? I wouldn't have met Darren Palmer, who helped me to become a self-published author, who I met in Breathe University, right? I wouldn't have met you, right? My whole life would have been totally different. And so what I like to tell folks is that if you make a connection with somebody, there's a purpose for the connection. And it's important for you to follow up. Now, you may not get what you need in that one moment. That's why you got to keep following up, especially if you're in sales. If you're in some type of sales, some transactions don't take place until the 12th touch. That means you gotta continue to follow up 8 to 12 different times before you even see any type of manifestation of what it is that you're striving to do. It calls for you having a long-term vision, right? One of my mentors, his name is Bill Britt. He says winners have a long-term vision. So if you're going to have a long-term vision, that means you're going to have to follow up. Now, it doesn't mean that you keep calling somebody every day. I'm following up. No, you don't want to be a pest. But it does mean that you show up in certain environments and you reacquaint yourself. And sometimes you won't even have to reacquaint yourself, because if you're super visible and active, whether it's online or offline, the people that you want to get their attention, they're actually watching you. They may not tell you they're watching you, but they're watching you. So when you follow up, in a sense, and show up in spaces that they're at, they're going to say, hey, man, I've been watching you, man. You're killing the game. Or, I've been watching you. You got that podcast. It's smoking. Or, hey, man, I saw you had this book out there, man. And you'll be a little shocked. You shouldn't be shocked, but you be a little shocked. Say, oh, snap, you see my stuff? But you low key like, yeah, I know you see my stuff because I've been putting my stuff out there. You feel what I'm saying? And so following up, it has everything to do with having the right mentality and having a long-term mentality and understanding that, okay, what I do today actually influences my tomorrow. But if I don't follow up, I can't see that thing through. People who sow seeds today and expect fruit tomorrow, they're going to be thoroughly disappointed. All right? When you sow a seed, it takes a while for that to turn into fruit. So you got to have a long-term mentality. So that I love the fact that CJ told me that 98% of people never follow up. And so it's a challenge for me. I'm not going to be a part of 98%. I'm going to be a part of the 2%.
All right. I feel you on that. I mean, and sometimes, like you said, sometimes it takes those 12 touches. Half the time when I'm following up with folks, I don't even want nothing. I'm just like, oh, hey, I remember I met you. Letting my little flight attendant self just take over and just reaching out to folks just to see, how are you? What do you have going on? Is there a way that I can support? And for me, like I get a lot of fulfillment out of just showing up. I get to have fun. if somebody has something going on, if somebody has an event that they're throwing, and it's like, oh, you just so happen to follow up with me, or just so happen to call me, or shoot me a text or email. As a matter of fact, there's such and such and such and such going on. If you'd like to be a supporter, and it's like, why? Of course, I would love to be a supporter.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I've gotten to have. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying absolutely. I was agreeing with you because I'm a fellow flight attendant, right? You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
I understand the the desire to please people and to want to be around people. But one of the things I will tell you is the importance of really having an agenda, right? And there's a lot of folks that say, "Oh, you only following up because you want something." And I'm like, "Who doesn't want something?" You know, it's the purpose. It's the person who doesn't have a goal that will never accomplish anything because they don't have a goal. So you have to have intention. And it's important to be straight up with people. Like I'm a recovering people pleaser, right? So I guess that comes with being a flight attendant, right? It's like you want to please people so much, and then it's to the detriment of you. But what I had to
Mm-hmm.
learn, and I learned this from ET and CJ and a few other people, that nice guys finish last. Right, and the reason why nice guys finish last is not because they're nice; it's because they don't set any boundaries and they're not intentional. They're not willing to ask for what they want. They pray that people will ask them what they want. And most people don't care. They care about themselves. And so we have to focus on self-preservation. So if we have goals that we want to accomplish, that we need to accomplish, we better follow up because if we don't, other people dealing with their priorities and they're not considering us a priority until we make ourselves a priority and until we address something that is a priority for them. So one of the things that I like to do when I follow up with people, and I tend to kind of keep that term follow up to a minimum because I don't want to come across as a pest. So what I typically say is that I am progressing the relationship. Right. So instead of saying I'm following up with you, I'm progressing the relationship. But why? Because you don't get to know everything about a person in the first conversation. You just don't.
Mm-hmm.
But there are three G's that I ask people whenever I meet them and whenever I do get to the next step in the process. And the first G are what are your gifts? Right? I always like to ask people what are your gifts? And the reason why I want to ask them what their gift is because their gift might be something that I need to help close a gap. Or they may be able to close the gap for someone else with their gift. Right? So I always like to know what their gift is. The second question is what are your goals? You know, what goals are you looking to accomplish? And I typically ask them within 30 to 90 days. Like, what are you looking to accomplish in the next 30 to 90 days? Why? Because I know that in some point in time, if things don't click like automatically, I'm following up in at least 30 to 90 days. And so in that 30 to 90 days, I'm asking you, so how did you do on that goal? So it gives me an excuse to follow up. And then the last G that I ask about is what are your gaps? And that's a replacement for how can I help you? Right. So if you and I, we've had conversations in the past. If I ask you, how can I help you? In your mind, you're judging me because you're like, I don't know. What can you do?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, what I'm dealing with, I don't even know if you're qualified to help me, which is not the answer to the question that I asked. The question that I asked is about you. But on the opposite side, that individual is judging me based on what I can or cannot do or what I may or may not be able to do. And so now we're not able to have a common conversation. But if I ask you, what are your gaps? Most people are going to tell me what their gaps are because it's independent of whether I can help them or not. And so when they tell me what their gap is, that gives me the opportunity to add value, right? And the more you add value to people, the more you're seen as an asset.
That's dope. That's dope. And I love the way that there's a way to reframe that with the asking someone what are your gaps? Because
Mm-hmm.
like you said, that gives that in so that if you are able to help, you can. And that also reminded me of you being a connector. That is one of the things that I end up doing as well because I'm that social butterfly that goes and talks with a bunch of different people, and I take the time to listen to what people have going on, and sometimes I just pick up in things in conversation, and without being prompted, sometimes folks will share what their gaps are, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I have someone that I can introduce you to for that. So that's one thing
Right.
that I'm going to have to implement into my conversations is asking about those gaps because with the way that you just explained it, I'm like, oh, well, duh. Everybody has to have a gap somewhere. Sometimes it comes up in conversation, sometimes it
That's right.
doesn't. But with me prompting that question, I could go ahead and find that out. And that gives me more opportunities to be able to be of assistance to someone, even if it is by being that connection to the next person or the next service or product.
Yeah, and it's very important to understand what a gap is, right? So I define a gap as the challenge or obstacle that may prevent you from accomplishing your goals, right?
Mm.
The challenge or obstacle that might prevent you from accomplishing your goals. So it's not super deep. I mean, I think sometimes when people talk about gaps, like they're like, well, I really don't have no gaps. Well, it's either you say that because you either don't have any goals or
Mhm.
you're not actually aware of what challenges you have, or you might just be afraid to really mention what you have going on, which is fine because most people are not going to be as transparent. That some people just start out not trusting people, and you have to earn that trust. Other people start at 100%, and if you do something now, you'll never get back to 100%.
Mhm.
But we have to be mindful if we decide to ask what is somebody's gap, making sure that we understand to also tap into what are their goals. And then the gift, and we've heard this said before, the gift is what comes easy to you, but it's difficult for others. And it's so important that as individuals that we discover our gift. Because once you discover your gift, not only will the gift make room for you, but it'll also help you to attract the right resources so that you can magnetize your gift, or actually make it bigger, amplify the gift. And so once you understand that, then you start to work in your gift, and then you start to have sweatless victories because your gift will make room for you.
That's dope. That's dope. So when you're moving into like using that gift, what's the importance of visibility and credibility as it relates to generating the profits?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. So first of all, if you lack visibility, nobody knows you exist. So if they don't know you exist, then how are they going to pay you, right? Like right now, I'm sitting in my office. The only person that knows I'm in his office is probably the people that's either walking by the office. But the people outside this building, they don't know I'm here.
Hmm.
I could have the cure for cancer right here in this office. But if I don't have somebody out there promoting it and letting people know, I'm not able to make an impact. Right. So visibility is really about putting yourself in a position where people can see you, whether you promote yourself or other people promote you. You got to be visible, right? The credibility comes from what other people say about you. So it's not about what you say about yourself. Right? I could say I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, but I'm supposed to say that about myself. People are not really gonna believe that. They're gonna believe a third party faster than they'll believe me. So
Hmm.
credibility, but credibility is also being consistent, right? So let's say I am the LinkedIn locksmith, but imagine if I'm the LinkedIn locksmith, but I'm not on LinkedIn. It's like, hold up, bro. How you the LinkedIn locksmith, but you don't even have a LinkedIn profile? Like that doesn't make any sense. So now
Hmm.
I done lost credibility because I'm saying one thing, but my actions are operating another way, right? And so visibility and credibility are critical to profitability because once people know who you are and once people know what you can do, if they have a gap that what you do fills, they're gonna pay you, right? They're gonna pay you. Why? Because if you're the expert, if you're the authority, if you're getting results, and they really want that result, and they can afford the results, they're gonna make the investment. But once again, if they don't know you exist, and if they don't believe you could do what you say you could do, then it's gonna be very difficult for you to generate that revenue and be profitable.
All right, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, you guys, shameless plug. If you
Oh yeah.
haven't already got your copy, grab a copy of Collaboration Creates Currency. When I talked about the book and some of the questions that I've been asking, I've gone through the book already, and there's definitely it's full of gems and a bunch of different directions to help you on the path, and it expands greatly on a lot of the things that we've been talking about in today's episode. And for sure, I got y'all. I'm gonna have a link available for you guys in the show notes, and share your comments there. Let me and YB know what you think about the book and everything. So, as I was saying that I went through, read the book. One of the things that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna ask him, and I was like, y'all getting the first time exclusive. I haven't pre-asked YB this. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna wait till the pod so that I can ask him. I wanted to know like your opinion on how or why does having the right mindset, why does that even matter when you've given us all these bomb principles in here to use in collaborating to create currency to fight poverty? If we have all of this here, like, what does it matter to have the right mindset?
Yeah, I heard a speaker say that motivation is like taking a bath. You gotta do it every day, right? So even though information is in a book, if nobody knows the book exists, so shout out to you for giving a plug, then they don't realize what they're missing, or they could that could be the cure for someone's financial cancer. But if they don't have access to the book, then they don't get that information. And I love what a wise person once told me, that stories sell, facts tell. Right. So the book is full of stories. It highlights myself and four of my clients: Marshall Fox, Deborah Delgado, Sherrod Ledet, and S. Elliott Brooks III. And all four of them were my clients, people that I met along my journey. I met Marshall Fox through Breathe University with ET. I met Sherrod Ledet through Extreme Execution. Right. I came and I spoke to the Extreme Execution team about a couple years ago. He was listening in and decided to hire me as his LinkedIn coach. I met Deborah Delgado while managing ET's LinkedIn profile, and she was sharing some things about. She wanted to actually learn more about his book, "You Ain't the Boss of Me," and as a result, I ended up connecting with her directly, and we became friends and colleagues. And then S. Elliott Brooks III he's a pastor who went to Oakwood. Now he didn't go at the same time as E, but I met him through a common connection, through a common connection, through a common connection, right? And so one of the things I want people to understand is that we're all one connection away. And so, but you got to have the right mindset, because if I didn't have the right mindset, I would have missed out on those opportunities. So having the right mindset allows for you to have a fertile garden, so that when seeds get planted, it turns into fruit, right? So let me give you a mental picture. Growing up in the Bronx, there was a lot of abandoned buildings, right? Because of what happened in the 70s, right? 70s and 80s was major fires, all this other stuff, riots and stuff. And some of those buildings was like burnt out. It was just crazy. And there were lots that had bricks and tires and cars and just dirt and all this other stuff. It was just crazy. So imagine if you have a negative mindset, your negative mindset is like that lot that had the burnt out buildings around it, and the bricks and the burnt out cars and tires and all this stuff, right? That's a negative mindset. But then a positive mindset is that lot that's converted into a garden, right? Somebody had to go in and take out all the bricks and take out all of the abandoned cars and the tires and the dirt and the trash, and kind of till the land a little bit, and then begin to put down like wooden pieces and start to plant seeds and fertilize that ground. And then you look at it a few years later, and now you see this full blown garden, right? And so having that right mindset is like that garden. But here's the crazy thing about gardens and land, is that it doesn't take much for weeds to grow, right? You really don't have to do anything. The weeds just start growing. And so that's why in our mind, if we don't every day focus on some type of motivation, some type of reading, some type of positive affirmation, some type of study, then what happens is we start to go back to the mindset that we had before we had the positive mindset. So every day, that's why we talk about how motivation is like taking a bath. You gotta do it every day. And so this book helps people to stay focused on the fact that if they want to create currency, The key is to collaborate. Now, here's what people need to understand. Currency is not just money, but the first thing most people would think about when they see the word currency is money, right? But currency is not just money, it's relationships, it's ideas, it's information, it's trust, right? It's leverage, right? Me being on your podcast, that's currency. You feel what I'm saying? Like you're giving me access to people that I would never have met had I not been here. That's called currency. But in order for me to get that currency, there has to be some level of trust. You feel what I'm saying? Obviously, we have a relationship. We know each other. You know what I'm saying? You got a copy of my book. So what would I do if you said, hey, YB, how would you like to be on my podcast? I'm like, nah, your podcast. I'm not gonna be on your podcast. I won't be on your podcast. So then it's not mutual. You know what I'm saying? It's not mutualism. Like I went to a speaking gig in Northern Virginia. You was there. You captured bomb videos for me. You did more for me than probably what anybody else would have done at that moment in time. You added value to me. So what would it look like for me not to be able to return that favor by being on your podcast? You know what I'm saying? And so it's mutually beneficial. And so having the right mindset, it propels us forward, and it also allows for us to attract opportunities because we become more visible, because we become more credible. You're actually lending me your credibility by letting me be on your show. I'm amplifying my credibility based on what I say. I continue my credibility when people then go find me and they go on Google and they look up Rob YB Youngblood and they see all this other stuff and they're like, oh man, I think I'm gonna go look for this dude. I'm gonna go rock with him, right? And then that leads to profitability. And so that mindset piece is critical.
Okay. Thank you for walking us through that. Because I know a lot of times people will or can see the tool itself, and kind of want to cherry pick and choose which portions of it they're going to do, and it's like, oh well, I could just go ahead and just start straight away. But I love that analogy that you used of the burned out park and that being turned into a garden, because that gives like the perfect view of, I mean, how crazy would it look if somebody just started pouring some seeds on top of that pile of tires, burned out cars, and junk? And using that analogy, I was like, oh, that is absolutely perfect, because when you put it in those words, I mean, anybody walking past, they would ask you like, I'm sorry, what are you doing?
Like, what are
Like,
you doing?
even if you pour the seeds out on the tires and the junk, even if you water it, you're not going to grow tomatoes, collard greens, and cucumbers. Like, it's impossible. That junk is not coming up out of there.
Yeah.
And so that was a really good way to put it, so that folks aren't trying to separate and just keep the old mindset or keep the stinking thinking, and it's like, oh, I got all the perfect tools. There's a specific environment where these tools are meant to be utilized and will actually work. So thank you for walking us through that, and the way that you helped us to visualize that with the story. That was dope for sure. I had one more question, but I forgot what it was, because like you really went in and had me thinking all the way about something. I'm like, come on, analogy from the Bronx.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, being a professional speaker, you got to be able to relate to your audience, right? I mean, I know you
Mhm.
got some experience coming in from the city as well. You know what I'm saying? We all from different cities, but people who know urban areas, they know. They're like, okay, I know what you're saying. So, but you got to be able to create a mental picture so people can relate. You can't just use big $50 words, thinking that
Mhm.
you're going to impress people with your words. Nah, you got to impress people with the vision and let them see. So, if you grew up in any urban area, now there may be some people that live in suburban areas, or they might live in rural areas, and they know, okay, yeah, I understand the concept of farming, but I never seen a
Mhm.
burnt out park before. So now they can probably envision that because I'm using words that allow them to see it. And that's very, very important when it comes to communication.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And thank you for that. So before we go ahead and get closed for today, did you have any final thoughts? Oh, and don't let me forget, where can everybody find you? Run us through your socials, and y'all know I'll have it in the show notes for you. But where can everybody find you?
Yeah, the number one place would be on LinkedIn, Rob YB Youngblood. You can find me there. Make sure you send a personalized note and let me know you heard me on just a show here. And LinkedIn is definitely, I love that platform because it allows for people to be transparent, and it requires you to be transparent. I'll give you a perfect example. Transparent and honest. That's important, right? So I had a gentleman who reached out to me on LinkedIn recently, and he said, I recently viewed your LinkedIn profile and I was impressed with your career journey. I said, oh, okay, cool. So there's a section on LinkedIn that allows you to see who's viewed your profile, right? And so I go and I look, I ain't see this dude's profile. Meaning what? He didn't look at my profile.
Mm-hmm.
And all it takes is for one thing for you not to, nah, you start out with a lie. So why should I even add you to my network, right? All he could have said was, the purpose for my invitation is I'm interested in learning more about what you do. Now, even with that, I would have kind of gave the side eye because I'm like, you can kind of look at my profile and see what I do. You
Mm-hmm.
feel what I'm saying? But when you tell me you recently looked at my profile and then I question you on it, and then you hit me back and the guy says, oh, I don't remember when I looked at your profile, but LinkedIn told on him. Because
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn told me he looked at my profile 4 minutes before he responded to my message.
Wow.
Right. So transparent and honest. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, people on other platforms, they don't even put their real name. They
Mm-hmm.
put fake names. So how can we build a real relationship, but you give me a fake name? You know what I'm saying? Like so that's why I love LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, you can find me at LinkedIn. You can also find me on Instagram, YB the Connector. I've got about 1 million Instagram handles, but you can find me directly on that one. And then I would love to have folks go to collaborationcreatescurrency.com. That's where they can find the book, or they can go to ybconnects.com. That's the letter Y, the letter B, connects.com. I had a person, I went to a restaurant and they said, what's the name for the order? I said, YB. And then I look at the receipt and it's WHYBE. I'm like, man, that was complicated, but I guess that's how you spell YB, right? I guess. You know what I'm saying? WHYBE. YB.
So find
But
them
now,
with
my
just the
website,
letters,
my
y'all.
website, yeah, it's just the letters. It's the letter Y, the letter B, ybconnects.com.
Okay, cool, cool. And I'll make sure that you guys have those with the correct spellings and all the clickable links in the show notes. And you know what? You jogged my memory on what that last question was that I have for you. And it was related to in terms of collaboration. Of course, everybody can't go. What are some of the things that you would say or give advice on when people are deciding who can't go with them when you're looking at, being that social butterfly, collaborating amongst groups of people, and really be discerning and deciphering who you should and should not be collaborating with?
Yeah, people who are thirsty, they can't go. You could be hungry, like Les Brown, but not thirsty. See, thirsty people will sell a mama for an opportunity. You feel me?
Mm,
They the people, they're the people who, when you was in school online for lunch, that they cut everybody online just to get their lunch because they thirsty. They can't wait 5 minutes to wait online. Like, no, I gotta get, or they tap you on the shoulder, you turn around and they're in front of you in line, right? So thirsty people can't go. People who lie and are that lack that lack integrity, they can't go. They can't go. Why? Because if we building something and you out there telling people, but it's supposed to be between us, I'm like, dude, you lack integrity. Or if you say you're gonna do something and you don't do it, you lack integrity. You can't go. You can't go. And then last but not least, the people who ain't go is the people who don't follow up. We talked about that, right? The money's in the follow up. If you say you're gonna do something and you don't do it, bro, it's important. We got a deadline. We got stuff we got to do. but you ain't follow up. Right? I had a person tell me they was going to do. It's so funny, man. I had a person that invited me to come and speak at in DC, and we had a conversation. This was on a Wednesday, and he asked me what my price was. I told him, no, actually, I asked him, "What's your budget?" He told me the budget. I was like, "Yeah, that's not gonna work for me. That's not gonna work for me. I mean, the last organization, this is what they paid me. That's not gonna work for me, right?" And so he said, "Okay, well, that's fine. What's your price?" I told him my price, and he said, "Well, we'll get back to you. I'm in a 3-part committee. We'll get back to you tomorrow." I said, "Okay, cool." He hit me back on Friday. He texted me on Friday. He's like, "Yeah, we're not gonna move forward with you." I said, "Well, excellent." In my mind, though, I'm like, but if they said they was gonna go with me, the price would have been different than what I told them because it got back to me on Friday and not on Thursday.
Mm.
You feel me? So we got to be careful. We can't tell people what we're gonna do and don't do it because then our word means nothing. So those are the
Mm.
couple people that just can't go. You just can't go.
All right. So there you have it. I don't be making this stuff up, y'all. That's why I'm bringing people in to lend to my credibility so they can give me credibility. And so that you have all of these different ways to look at and to assess where everybody can or cannot go and choosing those right people. Setting up those boundaries that need to be set there and some of the tools and tips that you need so that you can progress and start building your vision or continue building your vision and get into those goals. YB, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for just all of that knowledge you just dropped on me and everybody listening. Really appreciate having you today.
I appreciate you having me. I'm so proud of you. Keep the hammer down and the faith up, and I'll see you at the whatever next event that's coming up.
Okay, for sure. And we will see you guys next week for another Everybody Can't Go Convo.